Good morning, at least it's morning for me, and welcome back to my channel. I'm honestly not really sure what I wanted to say today, but I want to share the process of setting up a loom so you can experience the cozy vibes, the ASMR-like moments, and the mindfulness practice that art is for me. Something people often don't realize about weaving is how long it can take to set up a loom. Because I made my warp on a warping mill, it is now just a bundle of dyed yarn, as you can see here. But it needs to be tied onto the loom in such a way that I can manipulate the fibers into a pattern. For this warp, I'm going to be sticking with a plain weave structure, which just means one over, one under. The first step here is tying onto the back beam, making sure to keep the threads in order so that my painted design stays intact. Many weavers find setting up the loom a task to complete before the fun part starts, which I can understand as it is quite a process. But I actually really enjoy setting up a loom. It requires focus and repetition, which creates for me a flow state. It feels like some people feel after yoga or meditation or a long run. It's also so easy for me to see the progress that I've made, which in life can feel like a luxury. I even enjoyed filming it as a documentation of all the work that I did. It took hours and days to complete, but in filming it feels like the art isn't just the weaving itself, but a living expression of the weaver. I guess that's the hidden story behind every piece of art and what makes it so magical to me. In order to make the pattern, I thread each piece of yarn into a different hole on the heddle. To highlight how long this takes, for me this is 120 pieces of yarn. In the past, I have created warps with over 1,000 individual threads. It can take hours and even days of full-time work. Typically, you would wind onto the back beam prior to threading using lease sticks to keep your threads in order. But as a recently graduated therapist, I don't have the spare money for lease sticks, so I'm doing this the long way to avoid a purchase and also avoid tangling the yarn. I'm using the front beam to create tension, which will help to hold the yarn tight to prevent knots while I wind onto the back beam. Here I used fabric to keep the threads from tangling once wound. I actually ended up redoing this portion off camera using paper instead of fabric because when I began to weave, I noticed my tension was messy. I stop regularly to comb out the threads, everything with the purpose of keeping my warp neat, orderly, and on tension. And then I tie onto the front, keeping each bundle tied, you guessed it, at the same tension. This keeps my weft threads nice and even and my pattern smooth. Finishing touch is to weave in a bit of fabric or chunky yarn. As you'll see, this will lessen the gaps between the bundles to make my warp even and ready to go. And that's all there is to it. Next video will be all about actually weaving, and honestly, who knows what other craft I'll pick up by then. In the meantime, I'll be doing plenty of hiking and yoga to help my back after sitting hunched over the loom for so many hours. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.